Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be sort of a culmination video of the top 5 champion series of each class. So I have recently made videos for 5 best champions in my personal opinion in Marvel concept champions of each given class. In some of the more stacked classes I expanded it to 10 champions, and now it's kind of like time to mash all of them together and see the total rankings in my personal subjective opinion. Again, it's very important to keep in mind that this is not some sort of Bible or ultimate truth. This is purely how I personally would rank these champions at top of the game, and obviously it's all subjective based on my experiences, based on how I perceive things, and yeah, that is just what it is. There is absolutely no need to kind of like dig deeper into it. If you have a different opinion, if you have different rankings, that all is perfectly fine. We each have our own head on our own shoulders. Just because mine doesn't work the same way as yours doesn't mean that either one of those are better. And that being said, we have a list of 11 champions. Why 11? Because once I listed kind of like the top options in the game, and I just narrowed down the list as much as I could, I ended up arriving at 11 champions, and I could not possibly kind of like cut any of these 11 champions out, because in my opinion they are the champions that are currently 100% shaping the metagame, and every single one of them deserves to be up there. So instead of doing top 10 list, today we're going to be going with top 11, and it's a, I don't know, fancy number. It's a different number. Anyways, right, so we're gonna start with spot number 11, and spot number 11 is Warlock. And now Warlock is a very simple champion. I'm not gonna be talking too much about every single entry, every single champion in here, because obviously I did talk about them extensively already in my specific class video series. So if you want to kind of like have more big or long explanation on what these champions are, what they do, and why they rank so highly, I do urge you to just type in top 5 KT1, and you can find these videos that are uploaded now in July, all of them. But anyways, Warlock is just an absolute tank. He's good with and without suicides, access to armor break, shock, power gain, passive heal block, and he just seems to fit the need pretty much at all times. Even though he doesn't do anything overly crazy, he doesn't have some sort of very elaborate game plan. He's very simple, solid tank that answers a lot of problem fights, and he proves his worth every single day to thousands of people in Alliance War, in questing, wherever he is needed. Now we're going to move on, and at spot number 10 I'm going to be placing Omega Red. Now, and I do believe for most people Omega Red would end up quite a bit higher on the list, and if perhaps I would have like a rank 3 6-star Omega Red, maybe I would agree. But I personally obviously value this guy extremely highly. His ability to absolutely melt down opponents quickly and versatility. I do believe he is one of top 5 champions for Alliance Wars specifically, but when it comes to other game modes as Labyrinth, Abyss, even Act 6, later chapters, or Alliance Quest, he just doesn't seem to quite mingle with the best of the best. But overall, he's an insane option for casual questing, for clearing monthly uncollected quests and things like that. And obviously he has been one of the MVPs for vast majority of top-end alliances in Alliance Wars, and there are an absolute ton of utility in his kit. How he can bypass passive damage back with his tentacle hits, so he can deal with electrodes, corgs, etc, etc. He also has like very unique damage delivery method where hardly anything is immune to it. So yeah, he is more or less a must-have for any Suicide Mastery user. But another kind of like weak side of Omega is that there are 2 different Omega Reds. One is the one that you get playing with Suicide Masteries, and one is the one you get playing without Suicide Masteries. And as far as Alliance War use comes, pretty much 9 times out of 10 when you see him used in Alliance War, he also is quite dependent on that synergy with Sabretooth as well. So that is something to keep in mind, but he is an absolute beast of a champion. I'm going to try and keep this video a bit more brief, so I'm going to move on. Spot number 9, I'm going to be placing Hyperion, and again, Hyperion's valuation and rankings kind of entirely depend whether you are a Suicide Mastery player or not. At some point I was considering maybe making a list, 2 different lists, one for Suicide compatibility and one for when players absolutely are not using Suicide Masteries, but then there was quite a bit of an overlap, so I decided to do against that. But the point being is, Hyperion is, forever will be and will remain an absolutely crazy hard working champion. Now, he might not be the flashiest, but he does a lot and he gets a lot of things done. He might not necessarily always be best option for every fight, but he will quite frequently be an option. And he is relatively suicide friendly as well, worth to keep in mind that. And he absolutely shines without suicides, especially with how quick his damage ramp up is. Just spam a couple of heavies, by that time you're probably going to be at level 2, drop at level 2. Possibly it stuns. If it does drop another heavy, go for a combo or do whatever you like. And there are so many options, so many different versatile ways how to play Hyperion. And even though he is an old champion, but he seemingly seems to be getting better and better with time, I am absolutely praying to see him as a 6-star soon, because it is getting obviously quite worrisome at this point that we haven't had a 6-star Hyperion yet. But he, in my opinion, is one of those champions that will pretty much always be somewhere in the top. Where you're going to place him in the top is entirely subjective, but he will always be somewhere up there with the best of the best. And that is purely just down to the fact of how much access he has to extra power and how many different ways you can play Hyperion with. I still think there are a lot of people who are pretty much sleeping on the guy, and I was as well up until I took him to rank 5 because my alliance asked me to do it for like defense or something very long time ago. And ever since I took him to rank 5, I'm absolutely loving the guy. He is just crazy good. And moving on, spot number 8. Spot number 8 is gonna belong to a Russian comrade. Now, Russian comrade is a tank, is a beast. Now, he has still quite a lot of stigmas attached to his name. Well, first and foremost, there are many people who don't really, I think, look at him as the great damage dealing utility machine that he is, who are still kind of like subconsciously looking at him as the meme champion that he used to be pre-rework. However, rework changed him 180 degrees and he turned from a lame chump to a champ, and he just is absolutely insane, especially when you combine him with Omega Red and Emma Frost synergies. But even without those synergies, there's a lot that he can do. And another thing that many people have gotten in their heads, that he absolutely needs to be able to stun the opponents and spam the heavy attacks, which is absolutely false. The main idea, the main thing that he simply needs to do is to be able to land his level 2s, because they double his armor up, so they increase his damage significantly. With the level 2s, you can go past 20 armor buffs, and then he's gonna be absolutely wrecking content. I think I probably have at least like half a dozen videos showcasing Colossus, including a Labyrinth of Legends speedrun where he kind of like easily, casually drops 40k medium hits, let alone and everything else. So he's a tank, he's a damage machine. He can completely shut off all opponents' critical hits just by landing one level 3 in a fight, and that's it, you're safe. Combined with massive armor, he is just punishment for days. I use him frequently in AQ. He was one of the MVPs for Act 6. He can smash Labyrinth of Legends like it's nothing. He can be useful in Abyss as well. And yeah, Colossus is just a beast. As I would say, and that's why I rank him up at rank number 8. And it's important thing to know that there are absolutely no bad champions in this list, and no champions being disrespected in any way, shape or form or fashion if they end up on this list. Additionally, there are obviously a lot of amazing champions who are just short of making it up here. But that being said, we're going to move on, and we're going to be moving on to a science champion in this case, and that is going to be second best science champion in my opinion. That is Captain America Infinity War. And Captain America is also one of those champions that is somewhat already semi-dated. but he just kind of keeps getting better and better because he keeps finding more places, more ways to shine. I actually brought in Captain America Infinity War in Abyss run with me as well, where I was running through without any horsemen, and he was one of the MVPs for that run as well, being able to reverse the regeneration and simply being able to deliver a lot of damage with a relatively small number of hits. So he was just an actual option to clear kind of like your average general matchup as well, just because he does parry heavy, and that's only 2 hits, and that hits hard, and then the big single hit level 2s, and that actually let him kind of like stretch his damage output quite high, and save me lots of revives. Now obviously he is and forever will be one of the champions that's consistently being brought in Alliance Wars due to how tanky he is, due to how versatile he is. He has a lot of customization, and he's just absolutely amazing overall, and his value is definitely not decreasing. If anything, it's just going up and up and up, because again, he just seems to fit the requirements needed in order to absolutely smash out a lot of content. And what's best about him is very easy to play, and he's very user friendly in the sense that he has those glancing mechanics, he has huge block proficiency, so he seemingly can go through, I don't know, a marathon of fights without losing a single HP or without losing much health at all. So yeah, that is Captain America Infinity War, and he's one of the staples of Marvel Concept Champions. Now, spot number 6, where is my spot number 6? Spot number 6 is Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom obviously got introduced initially. I knew that there's quite a lot to Dr. Doom, but I didn't quite fully realize his potential. But the more you kind of ended up playing, the more it turned out that this matchup is great for him, that matchup is great for him, and currently pretty much any and every content that's being released, Doom is one of the stars in. So Doom is one of the horsemen in Abyss runs just because of how many different matchups he covers. Now Doom is a staple in Alliance War attack. He deals well, especially with like Stubborn and many different nodes there, and there is just so much that he can do that it's quite crazy, and the amount of different matchups that he has really good ability set for. And the best thing about Doom is that when you use Dr. Doom, if you use him well in vast majority of the fights, it doesn't even really matter who the opponent is or what the opponent does, because Doom kind of plays within his own little bubble with his little cycle of just go with your, I don't know, medium, light, heavy attack, medium, light, heavy attack, drop a level 1, steal some power, get to level 3. After level 3, do your medium, and medium, light, medium combo, drop that level 1, immediately to level 2, push yourself to level 3 by stealing opponent's power, so on and so forth. So it's just an entire kind of like system playstyle where you largely ignore the opponent, and that again makes him very stable. And additionally, obviously, he is extremely tanky, and he can take a lot of damage, he can compensate for your mistakes, and yeah, I think he is definitely one of the kind of like best iconic champions released recently, and he certainly has made his way up everybody's top wanted lists recently, not to mention Killer Prestige and all that other good stuff. Now spot number 5, and spot number 5 is gonna go to, there we go, Aegon. And Aegon is arguably number 1 champion for a lot of young and up and coming players, because he is key for Labyrinth and he's key for Abyss, and he also obviously has quite a lot of uses in Act 6. Realistically, he's not gonna be the most popular AQ champion for most, and realistically he's not gonna be the most popular AW champion for most, or a champion for casual questing as well, just because he has that ramp up requirement. And yeah, when you go in like casual uncollected quest or farming daily catalyst, that's not exactly what you want to do. You want to get in and out of every single fight as quickly as possible. And that being said, there's just so much he can do. And again, I always advise people to choose your rank ups depending on your goals and necessities and your kind of like next target to hit. If your next goal in the game is obviously upping the prestige, then forget this current list and go look up at the prestige chart. If your current goal is exploring variant 2, then rank up extra large champions that do best in variant 2, such as Warlock, such as Venom the Duck, or Thing, or whatever, above champions that might technically be better than them, because that is the whole point kind of like of Marvel Concert Champions and the roster building element, where you are meant to find solutions for your problems. And just because, for instance, Aegon might land higher than Warlock did, because Warlock was spot number 11, it doesn't mean that Aegon's going to be better for everything. And you need to keep that in mind when you choose your rank ups. And especially, again, Aegon might be the best rank up for a lot of kind of like newer and intermediate players. But obviously, Aegon's main relevance is still the Abyss and still the Labyrinth of Legends, which is kind of like the main reason people look for Aegon. It's quite a lot of stuff he can do in Act 6, which is super helpful, but still, let's not kid ourselves. Mainly, if an endgame player will look for Aegon, that is going to be because of Abyss, or if an intermediate player is going to look for Aegon, that's largely going to be because they want complete Labyrinth of Legends. And that is very important to understand, that Aegon is much like specific precision tool that you will use in order to unlock certain points of progression in the game. As well as, obviously, there will be times when he is useful outside of that, and quite frequently at that, but he's not going to be your kind of like day-to-day casual AQ champion for most part. But yeah, he's an absolutely insane. He's arguably, as I said, the best champion for newer and intermediate people to have. Additionally, he is pretty much, once ramped up, he is pretty much all-star MVP in Marvel Concert Champions, because his utility kit is insane, his damage is crazy, he goes unblockable, shrugs everything off, opponents activate no abilities, he's unblockable, unstoppable, true accuracies. There's just so much going on. But still, keep that in mind, and keep also in mind why he's here. It's not here because he's gonna make your AQ easier. He's here because he is a very precision tool for many specific pieces of content, and overall a good champion as well, obviously. And top 4 now. So top 4 for spot number 4 is gonna go to Nick Fury. And Nick Fury, in my opinion, has been pretty much the most influential champion for me personally within last 2 years. I think Nick Fury is arguably the best champion released in 2019, and there hasn't been anything released in 2020 that even comes close to the amount of influence any champion has had on, for instance, my personal account, and I believe on anybody's accounts really. And it largely comes from kind of like 3 or 4 different aspects. Now, first and foremost, Nick Fury has insane synergies that are really useful, like with Quake. And Quake is another insane champion, which quite frequently will enable you to then casually bring them to pretty much any and every Act 6 quest as you go in, because both of those are amazing champions and they help every single teammate that you bring along. So that comes off absolutely amazing, isn't it? Like kind of plus deal, right? Because he gives these 3 away charges, and you have a lot more margin for error, and those away charges have saved me so many items in like Act 6 and different pieces of content. Additionally, he has the gold pull slash dead pull synergy, where he turns pretty much any champion into a suicide friendly champion, which single-handedly pretty much enabled me to complete a path of Labyrinth with a rank 4 Aegon at that point without using a single item, just because it was guaranteed heal at the beginning of every fight. And it additionally makes vast majority of the champions compatible with Suicide Masteries, because it shrugs off the bleed debuff, it immediately heals you at the beginning of the fight, and then it kind of like offsets the damage you would take from recall during the fight. And yeah, so that alone is like a very massive, huge thing for Nick Fury and for anyone's account, because you can use Suicide Masteries all of a sudden so much more freely with so many more champions, and therefore you have access to so much more damage and so many more different champion team combinations. All that synergy things, bits put aside, he has insane damage, and especially obviously once his life model decoy gets destroyed, once real Nick Fury comes out, even if Suicide Masteries are not involved, he has arguably the best kind of like easy to maintain bleed. It might not be the strongest bleed that you will ever see in a game, but the bleed is ridiculously strong and super easy to access. So he has that going for him, and that puts him as pretty much one of the highest damage per second potentials in the game. You guys can see I have like a minute, or basically like a 60 hit Labyrinth of Legends Red Hulk solo with rank 3 Nick Fury. So it took like a couple of minutes. It was literally 60 hits in order to solo a Labyrinth of Legends boss, which is absolutely insane and nutty damage. So he has one of the highest damages in the game, and the best part of that damage is you do not really need to unlock any special abilities. You do not need to ramp him up. You do not need to fulfill any specific missions. You just go in the fight, you play, and it's there. So that is also amazing, and that's quite unique, especially when you're looking at champions who typically have access to this high damage, such as like, I don't know, Proxima, Midnight, Sunspot, whoever. All of them have requirements or some pre-existing conditions in the fight that you have to meet in order to do that much damage. And lastly, he also has his own utilities, which are proving to be more and more useful. For instance, we are seeing more and more nodes which are trying to stun you. For instance, I don't know, encroaching stun, stunning reflection, whatever else is that new node in AW, so on and so forth. And the fact that he's stun immune, it's a huge deal, because not a single other champion in this game is basically permanently full-time stun immune with no conditions like Nick Fury is when he is in his second life. Like, yes, Emma Frost is stun immune in diamond form. Sasquatch can be stun immune under conditions. Now I think Annihilus is stun immune while he's striking opponent with his Obliterate strike. And there are some other specific conditions where champions can go stun immune. Iceman can basically shrug off that stun debuff, and Hitmonkey can do that as well. But there is no other champion that's just flat out all time permanently full-time stun immune, and you do not have to worry about timing things out. So that is insane. And obviously a miss counter, another, like, just once you get your tactical charges up when real Nick Fury is active, that's it. You're just simply not going to miss a hit or have opponent evade. So there's just so much that he does. So there are like realistic, like 4 really great reasons why he is, in my opinion, like the 4th best champion in the game. And now I'm gonna go to spot number 3. And I know many people are not gonna like it, and many people are gonna say that he's overrated, he shouldn't be as high. But I personally think that he fully justifies the position, and it's not because of what could potentially be his high ceiling. It's about how easy he does the things that he does, and he makes AQ largely a breeze. He's like by far, by miles, by, I don't know, by many miles, the best, hands down, AQ champion, because AQ is a content you do daily. AQ is a content you do not want to use your potions and revive zone, and AQ is also a content you don't want to spend a lot of time doing, especially if you're like busy and working person or whatever. So Corvus just blitzes through everything in AQ and does it extremely well. So that is just like hands down AQ king, and I think he forever will be known as AQ king. Also, he is the best champion for casual questing, because he just kills opponents on average the fastest, which is why he is the king of legends runs in the monthly quest. Because yeah, he just finishes everything extremely quickly. Additionally, his ability to bypass dying, as long as he has at least a single glaive charge, is an extreme piece of utility, which is pretty much unrivaled in Marvel Concept Champions. The fact that he can deliver a lot of damage through blocks also let him extend his damage reach, and you can use it in larger matchups. Even in Abyss, he's one of the champions that counters multiple problem matchups extremely well, such as Killmonger. He's one of the best Killmonger counters. He's great for Massacre, which is a tricky fight. and additionally he is, in my opinion, second best option to collector boss, just after Aegon obviously. And yeah, that is Corvus, and he might not be able to do as many fancy things as like Nick can, or Aegon can, or Doom can, but the simple ease of use, ease of access, and the sheer speed and the convenience that it creates due to that, I think, is highly overlooked. So I do think that Corvus is the third best champion in the game currently, especially now that we have more free access to rank 3 6-stars. And with that, obviously, that is extremely important for Corvus, because he needs to be ranked as high as possible and have as high damage output as possible in order to make him as viable as possible for the harder, more stacked fights. And yeah, just an absolute beast. Heals with suicides, doesn't take shock damage, access to True Strike, AQ King, all the other good stuff that I said about Corvus before. And yeah, this is one of the, like, I don't know, very, very few champions that I use pretty much every single day. If he's not an AQ, I bring him to quests. And if he's an AQ, obviously, I use my 5-star for quests. But yeah, best cosmic champion if you are running suicides, also very worthwhile to add. And obviously, yeah, I would not rate Corvus nearly as high. I probably wouldn't rate Corvus even in top 10 if I would be somebody who doesn't use suicide masteries, which is very important to note. Corvus is not suicide friendly, he is extremely suicide reliant, and that is a difference. Some would say that this is a downside, but with extremely huge amount of champions that perform their best without suicide masteries, I think it's extremely great to have champions who perform best with suicide masteries. But yeah, Corvus, insanely useful, third best champion. And the top two obviously are not going to be any secret, so I'm not going to spend too much time. The video is already longer than I would have liked it, because I seemingly can't stop talking. So Ghost, second best champion in the game, and first and foremost, I must make sure that the Quake and Ghost, which are going to be the best champions in the game, are ahead of the pack by miles. Now, if the spots 3 to 11, I am personally very open to debating. If you want to say that Doom is 4th, or if you want to say that Doom is 9th, I'm like, okay, I'm perfectly willing to listen, and I fully accept that it is very subjective. But when it comes to Ghost and Quake, I think that it's pretty much undeniable that those are at the very top of the game. And you might make an argument for saying Ghost is better than Quake is, and I could accept that, and I would argue that, obviously, that it's not right. But either way, I would be open to the fact that Ghost and Quake are kind of interchangeable for the top 2 positions. But I will not accept the fact that if anybody tries to place Quake or Ghost below the top 2 spots, because they are so much better than everything else in the game. And at a point where if you have a maxed out Quake and a maxed out Ghost, especially with all of the Ghost synergies, you have pretty much an access and key to majority of the content released in game, which is insane considering we have 180 characters, we have so many different nodes, we have like thousands of nodes and whatever else not, and defensive abilities and everything. And in between Quake and Ghost alone, they would easily unlock more than half of what Kabam has ever created within 5 years. If you would put up every single matchup, every single node combination that we have had in this game, and calculate how many of those fights Quake and Ghost can handle in between themselves, I would be willing to bet that 2 of them together can handle more than half of everything that Kabam has ever made to date. That is how crazy OP they are, and that is how necessary they are. And there is obviously a skill requirement to both characters, and I fully understand that there are people who don't appreciate the Ghost or Quake, or don't like them, or don't want to learn them, which is fine if that's the way they feel, but that doesn't change the fact of how amazing they are, and the fact that they are absolutely worth the effort. They are worth going extra mile and learning how to utilize these characters to their fullest potential, because they will be there always for you whenever you're going to be struggling, whenever you're going to go up against tough quests, tough nodes. These 2 champions are the first champions that everybody is kind of like looking at. Whether Ghost can take the fight, if Ghost can't take the fight, whether Quake can take the fight, if they can't take the fight, then who else, or if there's anything that can take the fight all together. So yeah, that is all I'm gonna say. So second place is Ghost, first place is Quake. Obviously the problem with Quake currently is that we haven't seen Quake as a 6-star yet, and that is quite scary. I personally do think that that is going to be Kabam's way of quote-unquote dealing with Quake, just not releasing her 6-star and naturally having her kind of fall off or die out, and that'll suck. If that's the case, I would be superbly, pleasantly surprised if they actually do release Quake. I'm really hoping that they do, but absolutely reasonably. I can also understand why they don't, and I would understand if they didn't. I'd be mad about it. I wouldn't be happy at all, but I would understand why Kabam wouldn't want to make a 6-star Quake, because she's just that powerful. And purely from the game's enjoyment point of view as well, it's very hard to design nodes that Quake can't do without specifically singling out Quake, like in particular, and yeah. There's that. But yeah, the best champions in the game. Let me know how you guys would rank them. So I'm gonna go through the list extremely quickly once again. So I'd say it is 11th Warlock, 10th Omega, 9th Hype, 8th Colossus, 7th Captain America Infinity War, 6th Doom, 5th Aegon, 4th Nick, 3rd Corvus, 2 Ghost, and number 1 is Quake. That is all I have for you guys today, though. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and if you have, then as always I have a little bit of Baby Yoda for you. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm gonna catch you guys next time. See ya.